Hello, my name is Sally Pinto, and I'm the Program Director for the Yonkers NORC, Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. We serve seniors 60 plus in Northeast Yonkers. We are under the auspices of WJCS and the Yonkers Office for the Aging. We also have a resource specialist and a nurse on staff. We conduct virtual programming in partnership with the Yonkers Public Library on a daily basis. Enjoy the program.
Ladies, hello everyone, I'm Teresa. Excited about doing another of these online workshops. And as Z and Sally can tell you, I always try to key in the season into what I do. And I also unintentionally, or maybe it's just part of my psyche, always work in natural stuff. In this case, we're doing maple leaves, fall maple leaves. And this is done with oil pastel, but as Z mentioned, you can use crayons. You could use paint. If you're going to use paint, you want to use watercolor paper or paper that's pretty heavy so that it doesn't wrinkle. You're going to be working on a horizontal surface this way. I'm working vertically so you could see, and everything sort of has tape. So I sent this leaf, a template with leaves on it that I actually drew different sizes. I actually sent the template with this setup. You can actually use real leaves if you wanted to create your own template with real leaves and cut them out. You don't want to use leaves on this because they're not durable enough to withstand what we're going to do. Okay, so if does anybody have the template, and if you want to cut out as you're watching, that's a good kind of Zen thing to do, is just to cut out. I like cutting this stuff out. And as you can see, these were what I used to do this. And this is why you see oil pastel on the edges. And I'm going to reuse them, because why cut out new leaves when I can just use the ones I just cut out? They are taped on the back, so they stay on vertically. You could tape them to your paper if you're working. I'm sorry, I don't know how to mute off my text when I'm on the computer. You could tape them when you're working horizontally as well, and that just keeps them from moving. It's totally up to you. You can also just hold it down with your fingers as you're going. So the first thing you're going to do, you can use my example, or you can do this just kind of randomly. We're doing a branch, and the branch as it goes through the page, so it's been cropped on either side. But before we draw the branch, we're going to place our leaves where we want the branch to cut through them. So leaves tend to grow in the same direction, as in this case, all growing out right for the most part. So that's how I'm setting up my leaves on my paper after I've cut my leaves out. And if anybody has any questions, because when I work, I can't look at the screen and at my paper, I'm going to just ask you to shout them out. I can't see any questions that are posed in the quiet chat. So that's something to keep in mind. And I do encourage questions. You can overlap the leaf on another leaf. I like to do that because it's more natural. And then position it, reposition it, see how you want to have it. That's the nice thing about taping this too, is that you could kind of keep it in, evaluate it, and then tape it down. And then I'm going to put kind of a medium leaf here. So I'm going to move this one over because I want to have a leaf growing kind of to the left. And you can also have it going off the paper too. That makes it look even more cropped, but I like it inside because I want to keep the whole leaf in. Okay. I'm going to put another one here. Maybe I'll have this one overlap over here. Okay. Then I have this one, and they're skewed. The perspective is skewed. It's not a full leaf because that makes it look more realistic. And the perspective is kind of skewed like that. This leaf we're seeing it kind of from a flat. It's kind of growing away from us that way, so it looks flattened. Okay, and then my last one I'm going to overlap too. because I like to add shadow. So I'll put that. Maybe about, let me put this one down a little bit so I can put that one. Bit better. That right over there. So I like that. I like that grouping. I like the way I have the leaf set up. And now I'm gonna, introduce my branch, because the branch is going to be drawn on top of the leaves. And because I've blocked out, I created these stencils, these masks. I could draw right through them if I wanted, or you can just be neat and stop at it and use, branches of brown. I've used a brown to start it. I mixed colors on top of it, as I tend to do. And I'm going to draw a branch. Just, just so I know what I'm doing here. And this is going to be sort of covered a bit with oil pastel. So I'm going to go back. And this branch here is growing up onto this leaf. And this branch is drawing. It's a twig. It's not a branch. It's a twig. Let's call it what it is. Okay. And here's one offshoot of this twig to here. And then finally, I'm going to do one connecting there. No, not finally. I have one more. Okay. And I'm going to do a little one that kind of broke off. All right. So this is pretty quick. The most time-consuming part of this, which happened beforehand, was cutting out the leaves. So at this point, before I start, which to me is a really fun part, does anyone have any questions? Let me get close to this. So that's how I'm setting it up. Doesn't have to be flat against it, because all this is doing is I've set up my branch, and I'm going to fill in the negative space. So my leaves are the positive space within my composition. Now, because they're already in, I'm going to draw around them and fill in my negative space. My color choice to go against the opposite of the yellow was a blue. I might mix this a little bit because the actual complement of yellow is purple. And even though it's going to look something like this, I want to go a little different today and just mix more purple and violets in there, because those are the absolute opposites of purple. Orange and blue are the complementary colors, yellow and purple complementary colors. So this is my oil pastel kit. You can have a small one, a big one. I like Pentel. They're not expensive. You tend to find that you do need to use white a lot. White's a great blender. Doesn't add color when you're blending. So if you do like oil pastels, I recommend getting a box of just white, because you go through those very quickly. So I'm going to start with blue, and because I want to do more of a purple with this too, I'm going to have the light blue, purple, and then white, which is going to help mix everything. Okay, so here's where it's fun, and this is what reminds me when I was a kid. You just hold down the leaf, because I always go left to right, same direction so that we read. And this helps you from you're not really resting your hand on here anyway. This just keeps it from smudging too much. So all this is doing, and I'm starting in the middle, sort of, not even in the middle. There's no need to, I'm starting at the edge and pulling it out like it's a ray of light coming from the leaf. And I'm doing that all around. Which gives a really cool texture, as well as capturing the shape of the leaf, including all the nice little tiny points, sharp little points, the curves that are on leaves. And maple leaves, anyway. There are oak leaves that are round. There's the tulip tree leaves that have some round. There are round leaves, obviously, but maple leaves, these kinds of maple leaves, have nice sharp points. So I'm going right up against that paper to where it meets the leaf stencil paper, to where it meets the paper that we're actually drawing on so that I get every last edge shape. And I will lift this up so you can just see that one. Just see what I'm meaning. And then I'll put it back because I don't want to cover the white that I've created when I do the other leaf. So there is the leaf shape that I created. And I'm going to do this to all of the leaves there. And I always thought this was a really fun thing to do. The details, the edges, the definition, we go back in after we've done all the stenciling. And we add those in. So I'm just going to go ahead and take any questions while I'm doing this to all the leaves. And I'm just doing blue because that's my base. We always go, I am going to add white, but to blend, but I am going to add a darker color, in this case, purple. And whenever we do things with color, whether it's painting or drawing with colored pencils, or in this case, oil pastel, we go light to dark. And my purple is going to be darker than the blue, so that's why I'm doing the blue first. And here, when you have two that join, you got to make sure you kind of hold it down. You can just color in there too. And you know, if you want to do a different, you can do round. And just when you're doing round, you want to make sure you get up close. Like if by round, I mean your strokes. You do circular strokes. I just like this radiating. You know, it looks like a burst of light or something coming out of the leaf, a burst of energy. The wider the edges that's touching the paper too, the more paper space it's covered, the faster this will go. So if you have a pointy tip going on here, that's why you wouldn't want to do this with pencil, it would take forever. You can trace it, but you're not getting that nice kind of texture. And this is a nice technique, but if you were doing something abstract, you can use abstract shapes and overlap them and do something with that. Circles are always fun to do this kind of thing with. And if you wanted to trace actual leaves, we try to find smaller leaves. If you're doing, this is 9 by 12, you can get larger leaves and do this on larger paper and make a larger work of art that you could frame. Maybe with, not with actual leaves, but using actual leaves as your templates for your stencils. And then experiment with different leaves. The round edges of like a oak leaf. Some oak leaves have those really nice round leaves, curves, some of the leaves. That's fun to do. A little harder to cut out round inside when it's round in these, you know, where the leaf curls in, but it's easy to cut the round when it curls out. If you do this with paint, you could use a stencil brush too. The stencil brush has a flat top, so it, you know, goes flat against the paper. And but I would use a watercolor paper. If you're using paint, it just curls the paper unless you're using a dry brush and rubbing a lot of the paint off. Oil pastel is one of my favorite things to use because it's just fast, convenient, you can mix the colors. And there's relatively little cleanup. Get it on your fingers, but there's no brushes to wash. And I'm almost done. And then I'm gonna just double check that I've got all my edges filled in before I move my stencils. You could do this with flowers, you can do a vase of flowers and trace actual flattened flowers and use them as your stencil and do bouquet. All right. Now I'm just going to go around and double check because there are some white areas. But actually, before I take this off, because I want to do the purple for this one, I'm going to go ahead and get my purple and do the mix now. I don't have to do it everywhere because I'm going to use my white to blend. And I want this to be primarily blue, but I just want touches of purple this time. And I'm doubling back and adding purple. And you can leave some areas mostly blue or blue, just some areas that are mostly purple. Just like a painting when it's done that way. It's much more comfortable to do this flat than vertical. My arms are going to get a good workout from this. Good to do this with music too. Tap, tap, tap. Purple, this is faster than the blue because this is just adding some accent color. And kind of filling in the areas which might have not filled in. Just double check here. Okay. Now the big reveal. We can take off the leaves and then we're going to go back and clean up anything that we left off because the edges look very blurry, but you can see how the leaves are on that branch. Okay, so let's no more stencil. Now we do everything by hand. Just draw it. So I used a photo of a branch's reference, and now I'm using my drawing as reference. Just although you know leaves have the veins start to center, they all radiate out. But before I do that, I go back with my blue and just over here. I'm just going to clean up crisp up my edges. And it mixes the color at the same time. And pull this out further. All of this is going to be blended with my handy white that blends everything in. And now I'm you can still go this kind of basic radiating stroke, which is a feature of this piece. and fill in to the branch. Mix that purple in there with the blue. Fill this in here. You can do a Van Gogh type effect too and do the Starry Night where he does all the kind of, I don't know, almost like spirals in the sky, little spiral shapes. This is just what I preferred with this, is this rays, the rays of kind of, I don't know, energy coming out of the leaves. So, and then I softened it up to the edges with white, so you don't have to go too hard over on the edges. The most of the color is centered around the leaves. And then color right over these branches. You're going to go back in and draw in the branch. Doing the feathered edge of this too. I don't want it to be, you can go all the way to the edge if you want. I just like the feathered, soft, kind of drop it off. Just the soft contour, I guess. All my students, I teach high school at Maria Regina, grades 9 to 12. And they just like to cut this background, whenever they do a background, they just like to push really hard with that oil pastel and make a really solid color. I guess it gives them satisfaction. I like mixing and blending. As they get more advanced, like this is mostly the freshmen, they like to do a nice solid color. The juniors, seniors, they kind of do the more of the blending, artistic, painterly kind of background. Okay, basically done. It's the white, but my blue's been added. I think I want to put some more purple. I'm going to switch because I have a lot of choices to this more of a violet purple. If you can see it. You have to peel oil pastel so that you're not down to the paper when you're applying them. And I'm just continuing that radiation before blending with the white. I always say it's like adding the ingredients to the bowl, and then the white is like the whisks them all together. The colors are added in layers, and then the white mixes them together. Okay. Now here's my white. Pretty much, I'm going to peel a bit more because I'm going to go through a lot of white. And then this is the whisk. So that there's not so much texture because I want the leaves to really take all the attention. I don't want my background to distract from that with too much texture. So I'm just using the white. This is pretty fast. You're just kind of literally, it is like a whisking motion for anybody who cooks. To the edges and softening the edges, and blending this blue out to it. And then one more thing before we go into the leaves. That is a trick that many artists use and should use because it's a color theory thing. My leaves are going to be yellow. If you're doing yellow leaves, you would do the same thing. If you're doing leaves that are orange, you would use orange. But in the background where I'm mixing now, I'm just going to put hints of yellow here and there in the background. The background is not going to read as being yellow. It's just going to mirror some of the yellow that's in the leaves. So the whole piece, it makes the whole piece more cohesive. Is the only reason why we do that. So if my leaves were purple and my background were yellow, I'll put little bits of purple in my background just to make it unified. And I like to mix it before I put the purple, I mean the complementary color in. All right. Okay. So I'm taking my base yellow leaf, always go light to dark again. And in the background, I'm gonna use, this is, I have a light yellow and I have a medium yellow. I'm gonna put both of them in the background here and there. Can barely tell where I'm putting it, and you shouldn't be able to see this. It's just supposed to be subtle. But evenly kind of, you don't want to leave an area without any yellow. And then take my medium, and just touches of it. And that's it. That's really, it'll make sense when you see it all together, but it just now added another level of kind of a jewel-like color or tone to it, just adding that opposite color. Now I'm going to go in and do my leaves and just, put the details back, the points. First, the lightest color. Then and just, put the color in. I'm not going vertical or horizontal. I'm following the way the leaf grows, the shape of the leaf. It's like a ray, the center out. So that's how I'm filling it in. The shape is determining my strokes. And do the light base color first before you worry about the details. It makes you feel like you've covered a lot of ground, accomplished something by filling in a lot of color. And then it gives you something to work on top of as you build it. You're building, it's all about layering and building in color. And it looks like an abstract piece of art now, kind of just the way it is without all the detail. Semi-abstract because you could tell it's leaves on a branch. Okay, this is the last leaf with the lightest yellow, and before I go with my mid-tone, I'm gonna go back with my darkest yellow or ochre you can use. And just put my edges back in, so I know what the mid-tone is gonna cover. So I'm using like this yellowish brown, kind of like an ochre color. And just go in and define, you're gonna draw with the oil pastel. Just draw those edges back in. Put the leaf stencil for your guide if you want to. This is a, oops, this is a darker version of that. It's like a brown color that I used for the twig branch. And it just helps it make it stand out from that dark blue. So I didn't use pencil with this at all. Pencil, graphite does not get easily covered with oil pastel. And before I go and add the other color yellow, one other thing I'm gonna do with this brown is put the veins of the leaf. And here you can go as detailed or as minimal as you prefer. I'm just kind of putting some of these. Yeah, those are the main ones. Here are the secondary ones, I guess. And then you get that mid-tone. You blend it all together. So pull some of that darker brown in. Blend it. Okay. And that's how the leaves are done. And I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them that way. Just check the time. See if anybody has any questions. Is anybody doing this along with me or taking notes, going to watch the video and make your own? This leaf is going to be on top of this leaf in my little scenario, so I'm going to do this one first. Just to get a nice, crisp, sharp point. This is also on below this leaf. So I'm going to put this leaf in front like that. Put this leaf in front. And the dark one, just reinforce those nice sharp edges. Go ahead and put my veins in. Secondary veins. one is underneath that leaf. I'll do that leaf after I do this. Secondary veins. And then again, that mid-tone yellow, but before I do that. That's my leaf here. I'm going back over it with white, sort of as an eraser to blend that into there. See how that covered that? And we use that yellow and sort of blend it. You don't want that edge to be really dark like that. You want the edge to just be the edge and blend it in. The stroke is determined by the veins. The veins are growing out from the center of the leaf. My stroke is going to follow that. Something here. And the brown to the center. And then here, where the other leaf is on top, a little trick. You take the color that's in the background and the opposite color of yellow, and I'm just going to put in a shadow. Help that really pop out. It looks like it's 3D here too. Shadow. Where that other piece of the leaf pops out of there. You can blend it if you like. The lighter yellow, just so it doesn't look so purple. And that's looks like it's a shadow. That also makes the leaf that's in front pop out. So it looks like it's on top in 3D. Okay, and then I would do the same to the 3 other leaves. Okay. Define. Outline helps define because these leaves are really crisp against that blue. And then brown. Super defines it. And then the veins. Secondary veins. And then blending it. pull that dark color in. So it doesn't look like you just outlined it. And if you've noticed, I've also gone over the veins with the lighter color. It just blends that color without taking away the actual veins that you put in. Makes it look more natural. This leaf is underneath this leaf, so I'm going to outline this leaf. Outline this one. In here. The dark one. Brown that you use for the branch. And the vein. Veins. Then the middle tone. Put it all together. And put some purple underneath this here because that's causing a shadow underneath it. And blend. All right. Now I'm going to focus on the background. Go back to the background again. Another thing that you can do after you finish doing your leaves, go back with your background color. And the nice thing about oil pastel is that it covers. So you can go back and really crisp up define your nice crisp edges if you wanted. Because they do get a little blurry with your background color. Go back right over them. That's a negative space to define your negative space, to make your positive space stick out. Go right up to that brown, push it all the way in so that leaf looks really crisp. Okay, grind the oil pastel right into the surface of the paper. Then tell the shape what you want it to do. Now, back to the branch. Go back over it with your base color, which you started with that brown. And just define that back in. Go back over it. Be pretty aggressive when you're putting that color down, covering oil pastel. Little broken twig there. Find this a little bit. This side, move this down. This one continues here, go right through. This one comes to this. Okay, and then because it's, you know, natural, it's nature. It has a shadow, and I'm putting that shadow in with the purple. There's a dark edge where the shadow is. Just go right over it on the bottom. Push it right on top of that oil pastel. Into. This is on front, so I'm going to put it in the front. Here. And it has a highlight. So I'm going to go back to my white and put just this thin kind of line of highlight on top of that branch, twig, whatever you want to call it. Here and there, just to show that the light is hitting it over there. This is where it looks like it's painted. And that's the nice thing about oil pastel. You want a stronger streak of coverage, you push down harder. You want to blend it, you just push down softly. And besides like a little bit of refinement, that's basically it. I'm going to just go back and blend the stronger edges into, let me just check my time. Okay, we're good. I have time to do that. I'm just going to blend these stronger edges into the leaf. So there are no hard, strong colored edges. Everything is blended in. And if you wanted to, because you know the leaves were once green, and I've done that with this one, you can put touches of green in when you're doing this cleanup and mix some of the green in. The only colors we have not used on this are red, but brown is a form of red. So it's, you don't see it all the colors on here. It reads as yellow leaves on a blue background. But we look how many colors we used. Because that, you know, that's in nature, that's what, you know, that's what happens. All, you know, it's a color, it's the spectrum of light and all that, what picks up this bits of color more than kind of we realized in things. So does anybody have any questions, comments? Anybody think they can do this? Anyone pleasantly surprised that it was done with stencils?
It looks really beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, you saw that it was fairly easy to do. I didn't have to draw the leaves because I used leaf stencils, which gives you lots of options and possibilities. And this is a really comforting kind of thing to do because a lot of the hard work has already been done for you and you're just kind of filling in, helping nature out here. Well, nature's helping you out actually, because nature provided the shapes. But again, if you wanted to do this with abstract shapes, something similar, it's the same technique with this oil pastel, except you can probably do You don't have to be restricted by natural colors. You don't have to worry about joining veins. And you can still create really cool art. Just fix my negative shape to make my positive shape spot. And with everything, I never sign it until I'm done. And when I'm done and I sign it, I would say 95% of the time I don't touch it. I can't lie and say I never go back and touch it, because I do. Sometimes I see something and after I've signed it, I can't help it. I have to go back and fix a little something that I see after. But I'm not going to sign this until I'm done, which will be in a few minutes. I'm just going back to see that and popping up my leaves by crisping up the edges of the background as it hits the background, which is a really satisfying feeling to do that. Makes you feel kind of powerful, that you can fix things and hide the mistakes underneath. All right, I'm happy with that. This. So I'm going to sign it. Let's go to the bottom right. And it's 10:22. And this poster. Let's see. It's a bit bolder than the sample. So they made that use of purple, but you can see they're very similar. And I did this in an hour. So even if you gave yourself twice as much time, it doesn't take that long.
Hi, everyone. This is Zee from Yonkers Public Library. Thanks so much to Sally Pinto and Alexis from Newark. Thank you to our community partners, WJCS, the City of Yonkers Office for the Aging, Friends of Crestwood Library, and Yonkers Public Library for making this phenomenal partnership. And we thank each and every one of you for being part of our wellness community. Be well, stay well.